Yeah, hi, I'm Dave Stewart, username Dave S in the forum, and joining us this week to our further MG EV owners from just outside Oslo, John Griffiths.
Hi, John Griff on the forum.
From South Wales, Michael Fisher.
Hi, username FishTubeBean on the forums.
From Southampton, Stuart Whitman.
Hello, 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 hello.
Yep.
It's Stu Witt 46 on the forum.
Oh, that stopped my heart again. And I've been practicing this for the last half hour. From Søborg in Denmark, Jeff Abbey.
Yeah, that's it. You got it.
Well
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you fine. And
It's Jeff Abbey from Søborg in Denmark.
welcome. And we'll be picking up with Jeff later on because Jeff is an HS driver. So we're been asking for somebody to get involved, and in a few minutes we'll hear all about your car and how much you're liking it and what you're noticing about it.
Yeah.
And of course, last but certainly not least, from North Yorkshire, the Innovations Development Manager at Chorley Group, Miles Roberts.
Hi guys, miles per kilowatt hour on the forum.
Thank you. If you're watching us live, thank you for joining us. So please click on the like button and join in the discussion in the chat window. And for those of you who've seen before, usually Mike Fisher picks up and helps me out with anything I've missed on the chat. If you're watching later, thank you for choosing to watch a video. Please subscribe and get a notification of when we go live the next time. We've not been on for the last few weeks, so we've got quite a chocker agenda for tonight. The one thing we can't ignore, obviously, is energy prices. It's changing by the minute almost, and we'll get some updates on that. Then, as I say, we'd invite Jeff to speak about his MG HS plug-in hybrid. We've also got the sales figures from John in Norway, just hot off the press. And Miles also has some sales figures for the UK. John's also been fortunate enough to have a look at the new Neo and is going to feed back to us there. It's another Chinese car. It looks a wee bit similar to the MG ZS. And I'm sure, John, you'll be able to tell us what you think about that. And then if we've got time, Stuart's long journey. Stuart's had a long journey, everybody, so we've got to hear about that.
Hear about it.
Yeah, we want to hear about it, Stuart. We really do. So to kick off, obviously, the energy price situation is absolutely crazy. It's now affecting just about every energy form we've got, and now carbon dioxide. So I won't be able to get my own brew quite soon if this carries on at this rate. But has anybody seen anything? Has anybody unfortunate enough to be with any of the companies that have had to go bust over the last few days or so?
So I'm with Octopus. Fortunately, it looks like Octopus is okay at the moment because a lot of EV owners have switched to Octopus for cheaper tariffs. I used to be on the Octopus Agile tariff, which followed the wholesale price of electricity. And then about 9 months ago, I switched and went on to Octopus Go Faster because I saw that the price was rising and it was getting to the point it was going to cost me more for the Agile tariff. And just comparing at the moment, actually, if I was to have been on Agile yesterday rather than Go Faster, just to compare the sort of pricing and how it would have been. Where's my app? 1 second. I've got an app which compares Octopus. It is, there we go. If I was on, so yesterday it cost me, when it finally loads.
Got mine.
Right, so mine for September so far on Go is £81.67. If I was on Agile, it'd be £238.69.
Wow.
So to give you a bit of, and part of that with Agile is actually that they limit the price to 35 pence per kilowatt hour, whereas actually the wholesale price has actually gone to sort of 44, 45 on some days. So obviously it's good news for me that my tariff only cost me 80 quid rather than 240. Not great news for Octopus because they've got to effectively find the shortfall somewhere as to what it would have cost them, had I been on an Agile tariff, or had they been paying for the energy up front. And gas also has massively gone up. I know that's one of the major issues for a lot of people as we're approaching winter, is that, you know, my gas tariff, I'm paying something like 4 pence per kilowatt hour. And again, with the gas pricing, it's gone crazy. So it's now getting to the point where, you know, it's costing them sometimes 20 or 30 pence per kilowatt hour for the gas. So it's not sustainable for the energy companies, but it's not sustainable for us as consumers. If we were all paying the wholesale rate, we'd all be skint. Basically, it'd cost us more than petrol to charge our cars, and it would cost us, you know, an absolute fortune to heat our houses as well. So this does come down to a few things. As far as I'm aware, it's down to the change in trading agreement since UK left the EU, which has affected the prices that we can pay on interconnection between UK and France and other countries. So that means that effectively we're losing out on that cheaper rate that we were getting. And then the other thing is that they've had a fire at a big interconnect recently, which has again impacted on supply of about 1 to 2 gigawatts of power, I think, from Europe.
So 2 at the moment, but then 1 until March next year.
So there's a big issue with actual supply and generation at the moment. And so we're having to fall back on some old power stations that were supposed to be getting mothballed and shut down. So we're starting using a bit of coal now. And the power that is being generated, because it's not been very windy, and not, you know, it's obviously getting September, so the solar isn't as good as it was in summer. So it ends up being that generally electricity is costing us an awful lot more. The gas price is going high because, well, basically there's not enough supply of it generally around. There's been various constraints on supply, and we do still need a lot of it, unfortunately. So yeah, it's kind of getting to the point where if you don't have solar panels on your house already, it's probably a good time to start looking, and probably to get a Tesla Powerwall or whatever else to go in your house as well. I think, you know, that you look at the payback period when it was 5 pence per kilowatt hour for electric, and you thought, oh well, never going to pay for it back. And when you think that if I was to refix my tariff now, Octopus aren't going to offer me 5 pence per kilowatt off peak if it's costing them 15 pence. So I looked at the standard rate tariff. Their standard electricity tariff fixed Octopus is now fixed at 22 pence per kilowatt hour for electric. My
I think
peak rate.
That's one of the knock-on problems, that folk who have signed up to companies that are going bust, nobody's picking up. The main suppliers aren't picking them up because they're just picking up loss makers.
Effectively, yeah, and with the way it currently works is if you had a credit balance on your electricity tariff and your supply goes bust, the new supplier takes you on as a customer, but they have to honour the credit balance. So let's say that I'll pick a name out, People's Energy. Let's say because you've been paying a fixed rate all over winter and summer, and now we're at the end of summer and you haven't been using as much gas, and you've got a credit balance of say £250. If People's Energy goes bust, then E.ON or whoever take you on as a customer have to honour that £250 credit that you've got with People's Energy, even though they're never going to see any of that money.
The problem you've got, sorry, Miles, I had that with Simplicity last year, and Simplicity went bust. We had a £400 credit. And then we were told by the regulator that British Gas Evolve are taking it over. So they took on the £400 credit. However, we had to take on the tariff that we were told that we would be using, which was almost twice as much for cheaper rate. And we had no choice over that because they had our account basically. So unfortunately, the customer loses out, don't they, as you're alluding to?
Yeah, and as well, like I said, if I was to go for a fixed rate tariff with Octopus now as it is, I'd suddenly be paying I say 24 pence per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
Which is 10 pence per kilowatt hour more than I am now as a peak rate user. So even sticking with the same firms that aren't going bust, all the cheap rates have gone, and with good reason, because they all think it's going to cost them more to buy. So it's when I'm having the conversation, what this comes back to, I suppose as EV owners, is that if you've done your sums for your car thinking it's going to cost you £2 or £3 to charge your car, and you get forced onto a cheaper tariff, onto a more expensive tariff, and it's going to end up costing you sort of £6 or £8 to charge your car because your electric tariff's gone to 20 odd pence a kilowatt hour, then it can have a really big sort of knock-on effect for your whole budgeting. Now, I admit that, you know, even 25 pence per kilowatt hour is still probably going to be cheaper than what petrol or diesel would cost. But it is still, you know, if you've done your maths to make the car work, it's still, you know, a bit of a kick in the teeth, isn't it? When you've planned on it costing you 10, 12p or less per kilowatt hour. So the energy situation isn't great, and it's not, it needs some sort of fiscal stimulus, I think, from the government to try and sort it out, because I think we're coming into the worst possible time of the year for people to then suddenly start getting massive bills. You know, my energy usage, I got a statement from Octopus. If I changed off my current tariff, my annual electricity and gas usage would be £4,500. Whereas at the moment, I'm currently paying about £130 a month. So it would be a massive increase, you know, almost a sort of £400 a month from 130. It's a massive increase on costs. And that's not one that, well, I personally have got, you know, the budget spare to be able to sort of add on, you know, to almost quadruple my energy usage costs. So
The good news, of course, Miles, is that our government's assuring us that nothing's going to go wrong and it's all going to be wonderful. So
I was really reassured that one of the promises from Brexit was that it would mean that we wouldn't have to pay such high energy costs from Europe, and we'd be a lot cheaper, a lot better off. So
What's really scary about this is that Equinor, the oil company here, is very much state-owned, was allowed by the government today to increase deliveries of gas to the UK. When I read in the Telegraph this morning, the Observer, they said that the government had some meetings over the weekend and they were going to allow the smaller gas providers to go bust. And if any of the medium-sized companies were in the predicament, they would put them under administration. So there's something really structurally wrong. Last year, there was one of these connectors from Norway, or two of them were down, they weren't working, and we were paying what was 10 øre. Well, that's nothing for electricity. But Norway opened a connector to the southern part of UK now, and it's under testing. And what's happened is our electricity rates over here have gone up. We were paying 10 øre a kilowatt hour. I'll translate it into real money afterwards. But as an example, we're now paying £1.50 a kilowatt hour for electricity. And the reason it was so cheap last year was some of these connectors were down for maintenance and we couldn't export the power.
it's a massive oversupply. And
Yeah. But the problem now is the UK has had one of the windless summers on record. So there hasn't been the production of electricity from wind power that was expected. So you're sucking it in from everywhere else. And we were promised here that once we exported electricity to places like the UK and Germany, it wouldn't affect us. But what's happening is we're ending up paying the market price for it because the cost of power has gone up all over Europe.
yeah, no, I mean, and currently the CO2 as well on the grid. So currently the UK, as we speak, is at 273 grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour.
Wow.
And it's been over 300 twice in the last 24 hours, and it's not dipped below 220. Whereas if you look at lockdown last year, some days it was like 30 grams of CO2 because there's so much wind and sun and not as much requirement for it because people weren't going anywhere and using all these offices and things like that. So there's it's a massive U-turn from where we were last year in terms of supply and power demand and everything. And I know that obviously COVID's had a massive effect, and probably the number of people now working from home as well as people in offices means effectively you've got to still heat the offices, you've still got to put electric in the offices, you've still got the lighting and everything. But then you've also got everyone, you know, boiling kettles at home and having the computers on at home as well during the day. It's probably not helping. In fact, we're probably increasing our energy usage quite a bit there.
Has it affected the price of charging at the stations? It's gone up a little bit.
At the moment, I mean, at the moment it's still 30, you know, sort of 30 to 40 pence per kilowatt hour rapid chargers. Apart from Ionity, of course, who, you know, require more to pay for their kilowatt hours. But in terms of the charging, it's still actually sort of 35 to 40 pence per kilowatt hour. So I guess what they're doing is they're going to be hopefully on sort of fairly fixed tariffs themselves, but even so, if they're not, they're going to be just making no return on their investment of the rapid chargers. So yeah, no, it's not ideal. So we'll hopefully know more by the end of this next week. If anyone is currently with one of those suppliers, my advice is see if you can use Switch, but at the moment, from what I looked at earlier, there aren't any cheap tariffs at the moment. So I think the market needs to sort of sort itself out a bit before.
Well, we'll keep our eye on this one. Mike, is there anything on the chat that you'd like to bring to our attention? Or is everybody just saying we're doomed? We're doomed?
Well, Octopus Energy knows how to do things properly from Adam, and I did see Greg, the CEO of Octopus, appeared on Sky News earlier, and he's saying he was hedging a lot of energy, and he's bought a year's worth of supply at the moment, so the company's fine. And British Gas has taken over People's Energy supply.
Has it?
Yeah, that's just come out on BBC as well.
I think the thing was these companies that have gone bust didn't hedge.
Yeah.
That's the cause of their demise, I believe, from what the article I read today said.
Well, we'll be keeping our eye on that one because I suspect it's going to be a bit of a pain for quite some time to come. So we'll move on to the next topic we're going to discuss. And that's another big welcome to Jeff from Denmark. And Jeff, you have just recently invested in an MGHS plug-in hybrid. We've all seen them. They're a bit bigger than the ZS. It's only been a few days now, but how are you liking it?
Wonderful. We have had a diesel driven vehicle before this, and in Denmark, especially in Copenhagen area, because of the green transition and the environment, they are welcoming more and more electric cars. And my wife and I were thinking, what's best to get fully electric, because we don't live in our own house, and we're dependent on the public chargers. And we're actually lucky that we have a charger that's not so far away. It's only like half a mile. So it keeps us fit when we're going over and charging it. So it's ready for our day's chores that we need to do. Now, back in the 50s and the 60s, when I was a teenager, well, in the 60s, end of the 60s, I was very envious of a guy that had an MGB convertible. So I know all about the old MG sports cars. And MG has just recently come on the scene in Denmark, and it's come on strong. They've done an awful lot of advertising for it, all kinds of apps and stuff like that, and come and get a test ride. So we did that. And we've also seen the new one that's coming, the Marvel. But the fact that we don't have our own charger and we're dependent on these public chargers, that's why we've gone in for this hybrid. And we've got plans of actually going to Sweden next month. And talking about the charging possibilities. So I've been looking into that, and I can see there's an awful lot of competition. So there's so many companies. I think I've listed about 10 or 11 major companies. I heard you saying Mayer. That's one of the companies as well. But the good thing about this car is that you can see when the charge is getting lower, then it's using more fuel, more petrol. But if you keep the charge up, then it's when it kicks in with the petrol, or if you switch it to petrol, it is charging itself as well. So that's a good thing. And the great thing about the car is The size of it, it's very spacious at the back. My kid, he loves it, sitting in the back. He's had a friend in just recently sitting in the back seat, and he said it was like sitting in an airplane, plus, it's very comfortable. It's very quiet, and all the technology that's put into it is just marvelous. The interior is really nice. It's not plasticky. We got the top version,
The luxury one, yeah.
with the panorama roof and the leather seats. It's
Did you go for the red leather seats or just the black?
just the black ones, yeah. So it's a vehicle that people turn their heads at.
It's a good looking car.
Yeah, my wife, she said that people are even sort of like moving to the side to let us pass or let her pass. That's good that you're sort of respected on the road. You feel safe in the car as well. That's a really plus.
One thing I really like out of the HS that I miss in the ZS is those seats, those one-piece sculpted backs with the cutouts behind your neck. They look really sporty. They actually look very similar to the seats you get in the higher-end Jaguars.
Yes.
It's when you look at the price of the MGHS and you look at the competition, one of the questions you've got to have is how on earth do everybody else get away with charging so much for their cars? Because the HS it's about 35,000 euros, is it? How much is it in Denmark?
About 30,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. It's 300,000 krona.
Yeah. So
how much did you pay, Jeff? Was it? I thought
almost
290,000 danske.
299,000.
Yeah, I did some numbers. That works out at 33,500 UK.
Yeah,
and it's actually, if you convert it, you're 20,000 Norwegian krona cheaper than buying the same car here, which I found really surprising.
Yeah, they're doing an awful lot about really promoting it. But we even got a very cheap insurance.
That's good. Yeah.
Our insurance company were going to take double as much of what we were paying now, and then the dealer said, "Well, we have a special agreement with Southern Jutland Insurance. So are we interested in that?" I said, "Yeah, we'll give it a try," and they've given us an insurance for half the price. So
excellent.
We really said that we'll go in for that in a big way. And I've also got one of these bridge pass, BIS, to cross the bridge to Sweden. And the insurance company, when I had become a member of this BIS bridge crossing, then the insurance company contacted me and said, "We can insure your number plate if your number plate gets stolen." Well, that was good, for free.
What do you get in range in kilometers or miles on electric?
Yeah, 52 kilometers. It's not a lot, but as long as you keep it charging, it's good for around town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Once you get out onto the motorway,
binge drops.
Yeah, but the good thing is you can switch it on and off. And you can, like you were talking about in the last podcast, you can see it on the power. Mm-hmm. If you lighten your foot on the accelerator, you see it drop the revs and all this. And I've also tried this where you put it on the cruise control, and you can see the power. It keeps the power, and if I put it down a notch, then it drops the revs. It's all about how gently you are operating the car. I think that's what it's about.
Yeah, I've often said to people if they drive an electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle as if they were driving a 40-ton truck.
Yeah.
You read the road ahead and you slow down gently, and you see the light turning red ahead, so you slow down well in advance, and you do that regenerative braking as you come up to it rather than stamping on the brakes hard.
Yeah.
Then you get much better range. And likewise, if you set off like you've got 40 tons behind you and you don't want it to fall over or start spinning the wheels, then You
Yeah.
get much better range as well. I don't often take my own advice though, to be fair.
We've had the car now 2 months,
Mhm.
and in those 2 months, I've fueled up with petrol twice, and that's a full tank, about 400 Danish kroner. So I think I worked it out that we're probably getting about 13 kilometers per liter.
It's very good. Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Oh, that's very good.
Is there much of a feeling of transition going from electric drive to to the engine drive or the motor?
It's very smooth. I
Mhm,
was really surprised. The transition is really, really, really smooth.
mhm.
Excellent. So all in all, you sound quite chuffed with it.
My wife says she's fallen in love with it.
Right.
Especially at night time, with all the illumination and all this, it's
Oh
fantastic.
yeah. Miles, does that have LED
Well,
lights? Does
What?
it-
Sorry? The ambient light, yeah. You can change the colors of it as well.
Right. But are the headlights LED or
Yes, they are LED
okay,
lights.
so it's upgraded? Yeah.
Yeah.
Biggest problem with the one behind me is it's awful.
Are they tinted glass or it's clear glass?
No, it's still come with clear glass on the HS, unless
Yeah.
it's in the factory.
It's
Unless it's
tinted
been
at
by
the
the dealer.
The rear windows and rear passengers' windows are tinted.
Are they?
Oh, they must have been done by the importer then. 'Cause from the factory, they're not. They don't have a tint line on the process. They don't have a tint process on the production line for some reason.
Hmm.
Okay, interesting.
Well, thanks very much for that, Jeff. We'll be keeping our eyes on the HS, and anybody else who's got one out there, please let us know how you're getting on with yours. Certainly, I've only same as you, Stuart. Last time I was in the dealership getting my car serviced, I had a look at one, and certainly looked pretty impressive.
Yeah, it looks odd. I looked at one from the front. It was the only car in the showroom actually, and I looked at it. I was really quite impressed. Well, not impressed, but just surprised at the size.
Yeah.
I didn't even know really that the HS was a thing until recently. I guess it's because we haven't had anybody on the forum either that really, or on the pod that have mentioned it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see anybody else out there, in the UK as well as anywhere else. Really,
And
wouldn't it?
Stuart, I did do a very in-depth review on my YouTube channel. I'm very disappointed you haven't watched that.
Yeah,
That's flat wrist again,
Yeah.
Stuart.
Miles, could you get off his back? He's been driving a lot recently, as per
yeah. Well,
The other thing is that there's a step up again in quality with the Marvel R.
Hmm.
So it's very interesting to see, each iteration of a car that MG is coming with. There is an even higher level of you can say, fit and finish in the car. So yeah, I was impressed when I saw the HS with the soft touch dashboard right the way out to the windscreen. But if you saw Marvel R, you'd go, wow.
Has mine arrived yet, Miles? My Marvel R? No?
No. However, we might be in touch in a couple of weeks to discuss an upgrade of some sort.
if you go to his YouTube channel, you'll see
I bet
the,
it's good.
What's this space, eh?
if you subscribe to his YouTube channel, he'll be doing a review.
Yeah. As soon as it's available, we'll do. Yeah.
Mike, is there anything I've missed? Has any other HS drivers jumped on?
The only regret is there's no app with the ZSEV, but possibly future models will have that. Lad CPU Dean has said, as EU UK power grids are connected, what will happen to the price of electricity when this EU Fit for 55 comes into force, when the electricity provider has to buy carbon credits?
Honestly, don't know, but I imagine it's not going to go down much.
No, absolutely.
It's almost the worry I think is that the prices